Everyone's a little lightheaded around here. Stugotz just made Duke a national football champion for many years as a competitor to the big names in sports because he's a little, is it tryptophan? Like what got you what got you this holiday break? It's hard to come back to work. I think a lot of people struggle with the malaise and with things slowing down. Is your daughter's at the top of the list, or is it general sloth that's at the top of your list?
I would say gummies number 1, daughters number 2. That's what got me.
Gummies for what? 10 days of gummies?
Yeah, 10 days of multiple gummies, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so you're downtrodden. You're having some difficulties getting back to work. Do you guys think this is happening all over the country today where because a lot of people do have to work during the last week. Not everyone gets the sloth.
Not everyone does that. Historically, our show's always been off this week as well. We've always taken 2 weeks.
It was funny me complaining to my wife about that. I was like, we usually have 2, I feel like. And she's like, you're complaining.
I feel like just generally, now that we're in control of it, we're making ourselves work more than we used to when we were working with like a partner like in the ESPN. Because we always, CFP, we'll talk about the national championship.
Yeah, I mean,
we just skipped that one.
One point we were off today too.
Yeah, that just disappeared from the calendar.
I'm also wondering, are we going to honor Dr. King or are we not? Like, because that's coming up.
I am regardless. I'm putting my foot down.
Thank you. How
Thanks,
about Columbus?
Mike.
I mean,
well, that was
no.
I don't think we can.
That was like a whole thing, and it's Indigenous Peoples Day here.
Yeah. But it was more difficult for me yesterday, the day before, when you know that this is your last day of vacation. There was a sadness in waking up yesterday. Today, I had kind of just all day yesterday got myself ready for today. So today I was fine. It was yesterday morning waking up being like, it's all over. Today is Sunday.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Held my daughter a little bit tighter.
Yesterday was also Monday.
But it was our Sunday.
Yeah.
On Monday, that felt like a Sunday. He's
did.
right. Yeah.
Can you imagine, Chris Cody, as you talk about the general entitlement that is you at work, can you imagine how your wife feels about the idea of, and now imagine a job you actually hate doing, which is 80% of the people listening to this. A job you hate going to every day. Imagine what coming off of vacation feels like on that day.
Yeah, that must suck.
I imagine your wife doesn't even understand. So wait, you're going to dress the same way you've been dressed every day around here, around the house, in your dirty sweats and your baseball cap. And you're going to now go to work where you give sports opinions, and you're going to complain about coming off of vacation to have to go to work?
I was productive over the break. I repainted a wall, by the way. Painter's tape, scam.
Wait, one wall?
What?
Well, I just had to touch up, little touch-up work. You know, my wife gave me a few things like, hey, could you do this week, this, that, and the other?
Little dab here, little
Little
dab
marks
there.
on the wall
Right,
from
yeah.
toys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was.
You
It
got
was in my
to get
daughter's
the
room.
Mr. Clean Eraser thing.
Yeah, magic eraser.
Game changer.
But I threw down some painter's tape, and I'm like, all right, let's get crazy here. The tape's there, nothing bad could happen. I whipped that tape off afterwards, paint everywhere. And I get it. Billy's gonna do. Oh, it was you made a mistake, but hey, painter's tape, be better.
Tape.
You're having trouble
it's a hard
with the
thing to
word
say.
tape. Well, yes, if
Painter's
you've
tape.
done nothing but eat turkey and candy and gummies for the last 10 days. It does hard. You've said painter's tape incorrectly 4 times.
I think I said it incorrectly once.
No,
definitely not once.
You put an M in there.
Painter's taint.
Well, yeah. Okay.
What's that, Chris? Please, go on.
Between the and the balls.
Chris's sweatpants right in the middle. Yeah.
Painter's taint is what you had.
Also called the gooch.
Put it on the poll. Is the taint also called the gooch?
It is.
Got a skin
Universally
tag on
is,
mine.
What?
It's almost like you can unzip me from there.
Can we get the Kirby Smart sound, please? I'd like this show to be slightly smarter than
That was
it is.
Kirby dumb, what we just did.
You sure it's not your wiener?
Yes, it is. There
No.
it is.
No.
There it is.
It's in between the butthole
There
and
it
balls.
is.
Okay.
Wiener's on the
There
front
it
end of the
is.
balls.
Maybe you
At
have
least
two.
for me.
I mean,
It gets even less subtle.
a couple of wieners cutting it
he
out.
has 2.
Okay, excellent. Let's get to the Kirby Smart sound.
Sorry.
Maybe I'm wrong here, and maybe this will be a bad soundbite, but people need to see what happened tonight, and they need to fix this. It needs to be fixed. It's very unfortunate that they, who has a good football team and a good football program, are in the position they're in. And everybody can say it's their fault and it's their own problem, all right? And everybody can say that we had our guys and they didn't have their guys. I can listen to all that. But college football has got to decide what they want. And I know things are changing, and I think things are going to change next year. And you know what? There's going to still be bowl games outside of those. people got to decide what they want and what they really want to get out of it, because it's really unfortunate for those kids on that sideline that had to play in that game that didn't have their full arsenal, and it affected the game 100%.
But he didn't have his full arsenal. Like, what are we talking about
How many
here?
players was Georgia missing?
Look at the kids
The
nodding
same as
along.
FSU.
27. Can you guys please just isolate for me the sound at the beginning of that? Because I want to point out to the audience how absurdly funny all of this is. Okay?
Maybe I'm wrong here, and maybe this will be a bad soundbite, but people need to see what happened tonight, and they need to fix this.
Okay, just get the second part of that sentence and isolate it for me, because I'm telling you, it's someone that is coming out of a cornfield after having seen something horrific, and it's involved aliens, and there was something that he was not meant to see. His general tone, Kirby Smart's general tone here, is of a man who has seen something that was not meant to be seen, Stugotz, that others shouldn't have seen. It shouldn't have been seen publicly.
But he saw it.
He is embarrassed on behalf of FSU. He knows how hard it is to go undefeated in that sport. And what's amazing about this entire story is that Kirby Smart still has the best team. Kirby Smart would be favored against everybody else. Kirby Smart has lost one time in 2 years. In 3 years, he has lost one time. He, to the degree you can, kind of dominated Saban over the last couple of years and ran Dabo out of the top place. Like, ran Dabo out of there. You can no longer exist here. Go back to the ACC. We're playing big business, giant football here. And he beats FSU. One of the greatest seasons we've ever seen FSU have, and a good FSU team, injured or not injured, kind of needed their quarterback. He's important. Beat him by 60. And then says after the game in a tone that made me scared about what he had seen, delivers this way, this seriousness.
People need to see what happened tonight, and they need to fix this. It needs to be fixed.
People need to see what happened tonight.
He's so haunted.
Go back and tell people. It's like from an 80s movie about race.
He's right.
Go.
Soul Man?
People, no, not Soul Man. Maybe, no.
People need to know what happened here.
Remember,
Soul Man.
remember in the Eagles game a few years ago where the gate fell and a bunch of people fell onto the field? That's what he acted like happened in that
It
game.
is like Killers of the Flower Moon. Like, people need to know what happened here.
We can't have that happen
This
again.
is a tale of American history that needs to be told. This 60 burger that we threw up on FSU. He's right, by the way, but
With our backups.
he's totally right. He's totally right. We all know the dilution we work in sports, but if you're looking for foresight from the people that put together these bowl games, you're going to drive yourself crazy. They're not going to have it. The only thing that'll ever force action is a serious non-pandemic dip in ratings. It's the only thing that's going to force their hands, because as long as it rates the way that it is, you're not going to. There's plenty of solutions that make sense. I got traction for one of the things that I said. Put it at the beginning of the season. You won't have opt-outs.
Well, no, tell people this, because you did say something here that technically would help fix it. People need to start thinking about. People need to see what happened here.
People do. This is a ridiculous way to end the season
It's
for these
so
teams.
asinine.
It is. Like, move it to the spring or move it to the beginning of the season. I think moving it to the beginning of the season takes care of everybody. TV partners will feel great. You'll get packed stadiums. Fan bases will be excited because you have a neutral site to travel to at the beginning of games. You won't have the opt-outs. Sure, the teams are totally different from the previous season. Have you watched what's been happening? That's not the same FSU team from the previous season that we saw. So just put it at the beginning of the season.
Wait,
and
so
you'll get your
earn-
TV numbers.
And you earn the bowl like
for the following
previous
year. For the following year.
Bowl games are played at the start of the season?
Bowl games are played at the start of the season. Your finish the previous year determines what kind of bowl game you get to be in the start of the season.
But why? Like, why would you?
Why
do
are we
that
doing
way?
it this way?
It's a meaningless game.
Why?
though.
No. Now it's a meaningless game. Bowl games with two teams going for it in a neutral site in a game that counts against your record, that'll actually make it feel like something.
Well, I mean, I think their argument would be we expanded the playoffs, so next year that will be a playoff game, so those players probably won't have opted out of that because they'll be playing for a national championship.
Even more reason, I think, to put bowl games at the start of the season, because it just makes the college football playoff at the end of the year more important.
The acceleration to me symbolically has been fascinating. It wasn't but a couple of years ago we were yelling about that guy shouldn't opt out just because he's going to be a first-round pick. And that was a couple of years ago.
McCaffrey.
That guy shouldn't opt out. He should play in that game for his team. FSU needs him.
How about Bo Nix? Huh? Thank you, Bo. You played.
Thank you for doing that to Liberty.
And you covered.
Knicks.
Yes.
With NCAA records to play for. Totally selfless act. Thank you, Bo.
Thank you, Bo.
Do it for the
We appreciate you.
Thank you, Bo.
Thank you, Bo.
Thank you, Bo. Jay Glazer remains at the top of a very competitive game. Very few anywhere in sports journalism or in the information business have better contacts or more information than Jay Glazer. Thank you, as always, for joining us, Jay. I will remind people, Unbreakable is his mental health podcast. He is getting great freedom and liberation from showing people his vulnerabilities and showing them that they are not alone with some of the dark thoughts that plague us. Thank you, Jay, as always, for making the time for us. Got a lot of football that I want to get to with you, but before we do that, I want to show him some video here of an Avalanche broadcaster, Stugotz, Mark Rycroft, by accident during a game. They are just televising the game. We do not have the sound that you need here, but you can see the video of the disgust. He accidentally drinks from the cup of tobacco spit that his partner was spitting into a cup. He thought he was drinking coffee, and instead he drinks his partner's tobacco spit. Jay, it looks like you have a story here. You're profoundly disgusted by this, but also enjoying it.
Profoundly disgusted. So here's, I think 7th grade, first time I tried Copenhagen and put it in my mouth, and teacher walked in a room, and I just had no choice but to just drink it all up. And that thankfully got me to make sure I never did chewing tobacco ever again. Oh, one of the worst experiences of my life.
That's how my dad taught me the same way. This was a weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, baseball players had these big chaws in their mouth, and I was bothering my dad for years about it. And then we're just walking through a supermarket. He's tired of me bothering about it, so he just reaches into a bag of Copenhagen, doesn't teach me how to do it, sticks it in my mouth, and leaves the bag of Copenhagen there open on the shelf. And I, of course, swallowed it because I didn't want to spit up, and it was terrible. And I was 43 years old.
Waiting for it.
Mine was, I think I had to do it for class was probably for like an hour. So I had to just sit there and just drink this for an hour. Oh, man.
No, it'll make you dizzy, and it's horrible. But drinking from your partner's cup, though, as horrible
That's even worse.
No, it's even worse to drink.
Yeah, especially because you probably know where your partner's been.
Yeah.
How about being a chaw dog during an NHL broadcast? That is
terrible.
gnarly.
Oh, that is terribly unpleasant. Look at that. You know how hard it is to discuss Jay Glazer? Look at him. He's cringing. He's wincing. He's
Because I am filthy, so that takes a lot. Yes.
What other liquors or substances can I get you to recoil that way on? Because I drank too much Rumpelmans in college. one time.
I would say Jägermeister for me, because I was doing that with I was doing Jaeger and Rumpelmints and Fireball together.
Oh,
God.
Jay.
Yeah,
kill you.
college, and that,
Jay.
yeah, that wasn't good. I think I threw up on my shoe or something like that. It wasn't great.
You went Rumpelmints in college,
but
Dan, with the
wait,
gold flakes?
Look at what he just did. Well, I didn't.
Bartending.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was peppermint schnapps. I didn't know it was 100 proof, but you just mixed a concoction of 3 awfuls. Jägermeister,
Horrible.
you're trying to punish yourself there, Jay.
Yeah, horrible. I didn't know it at the time. I was too drunk to know I was punishing myself.
Let's talk some football here with Jay. The Tepper situation in Carolina. Is this funny to you? Oh, you're shaking.
No.
You're shaking your head.
No, not funny at all. No, absolutely not. Now, first of all, I think you asked me a couple of weeks ago who's the worst meddlers in the league, and he's top. But then to go and throw, we're just coming out of a COVID era too, when people were a lot more sensitive to throwing germs at other people. And you do that in disgust at fans. These are the people who are paying for all of us to have jobs. No, it's unacceptable. And I think owners should get held to a higher level than anybody else. But that's ridiculous. Like, listen, there's been a lot of frustrated owners over the years. They don't go and take their drinks and throw them on fans because they're disgusted. Just, man, grow up. That's ridiculous.
Jay, though, I will explain to people. We were talking before you came on here. I was saying, man, this shadowy world of billionaires that somehow can keep all of their reckless behavior private. Can you explain to people just how poorly behaved this club of men can be in private? Because Tepper owns the team.
No, I'm not doing that. Why? I'm not outing people. What are you kidding me? No. You got somebody else that question. I'm not out and how bad a bunch of billionaires could be.
But can you speak in general terms though about the power in this sport, how it is that they're able to keep everything quiet while it is we report on everything else? That franchise in particular, Jay, Tepper's in charge at least because they quietly escorted the previous guy out.
Yeah, well, they didn't quietly escort the previous guy out. The other guy got booted out. But Tepper's behavior is just, it's awful. It's ridiculous. It's not like they're going to say, okay, we can force a guy to sell because he threw a drink on somebody, but they should definitely hit him really hard. They should treat him with a harsher discipline than any other fan has ever been hit with for something like that.
Jay, with Michigan beating Alabama, do you feel like Jim Harbaugh is closer to staying at Michigan or closer to going to the NFL?
I think he's, dabbled the last couple of years. I think this year, especially because him being embroiled in controversy like that, he might just say, you know what, I'm tired of it, out of it, I'm done. He had 2 controversies early this year. I think he would be more inclined to go after, and I say go after, one of those jobs, because it's different. Like, I think in the past, Jim Harbaugh's kind of interviewed for jobs, almost like he's interviewing them to see if he wanted to go there. And really, when you go after these jobs, you got to sell yourself. It doesn't matter who you are. You got to sell why you're the right guy for that place, and why life is going to be great while you're there with this person. So I think Jim has to come in this year and kind of sell himself a little bit more. But I think he does that this year, more than he has in the past.
Jay, it was cool to see you and the rest of the Fox team supporting Jimmy in Jerry Jones's box for his Ring of Honor ceremony. The camaraderie is second to none when it comes to that Fox team. But what happened at the end of that game was certainly newsworthy, and I know a lot of insiders have been doing a lot of reporting on what happened there. The Lions came prepared with a lot of receipts saying they talked to the officials before the game that play was coming, and there is circumstantial evidence of that player walking up to the official, and we don't know what's being said there.
Jared Goff, tell him to go over and make sure it's done.
So what is exactly going to be the result of this? It seems as though, whether he heard him or not, that this would fall on the officials who screwed this up.
The result's going to be nothing. And Dan Campbell and I talked about this. We talked about this the next day. I said, you got to, make sure that your players know that it's not like they're going to overturn the results. So somehow you got to get them to say, okay, this is going to happen. We just got to move forward. And it's exactly what he'd been, 3 steps ahead already in doing that. But he was furious because he did everything he was supposed to do. He laid it all out to them. And Dan is a very detail oriented guy. So I think that right there, like, he knew he'd done everything right. And, look, people are now saying, well, they try to fool the Cowboys. That's fine. Like, every play you're trying to fool the other team, right? You're trying to disguise what you're doing. So I don't have a problem with them trying to disguise what they're doing to the Cowboys also. Trying to confuse them, I think it's totally fine. And I think it's on the officials to make sure they get it right. But here's the thing, every week we're talking about the officials. And this is like, I have this talk with, head coach after head coach after head coach. It's not going to stop until the NFL decides to say to the officials, hey, let's start calling it like the replacements did years ago, where we just held back and let these guys do everything unless it was just completely blatant and obvious. You can call a penalty on every play, but the fact that they're the story every single week.
But Jay,
I don't expect anything to change.
But Jay, how do you? There's no fixing it. So at what point?
No fixing it.
But at what point does information guy Jay Glazer throw up his hands and say the game cannot be properly officiated? Period.
No, the game can be properly officiated if you stop looking at every single thing. Like, it's, again, I just said, like, when the replacement refs were in there, it was great because it was like the league was just like, hey, just back off. Don't be the story unless something is completely clear and blatant and obvious. And right now it's just, like I said, it's not just this year, guys. It's been like this for the last several years, that officiating has just become the story. The officials should never, ever, ever be the story. It should never be. The product on the field of the players and the coaches, that should be the story, not the officials.
Give me the historical precedent for Joe Flacco. It's a good question. Geno Smith. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Geno kept playing, but
not like that, where he was away, but yeah, I would say kind of a Geno Smith situation. But I was there at Browns practicing in LA at UCLA. And I went to go there to see Kevin Stefanski and a bunch of guys. And Kevin walks over there and he says to me, "How about Joe?" I said, "Man, he's had all this rest. He just looks fresher than everybody else. It's unbelievable." But at the time, it was kind of almost more of a joke, like, man, how great this would be incredible. But I don't think he expected Joe Flacco to return to a Super Bowl kind of Joe Flacco. It was great.
Jay,
by the way, real quick, you brought the Jimmy Johnson thing because we just, floated over that. I know you've known Jimmy for a long time, but man, that was definitely one of the nights I'm sitting up there in the suite with our whole crew, and it was one of the nights where I look up to God, which I do a lot, and I'm like, thank you, my best friend, God Almighty, that I'm like 5-year-old Jay. If I told him, hey, you're gonna be sitting in the suite one time with Jimmy Johnson and Howie Long, Terry Bradshaw, Michael Strahan, Kurt Menefee, at Jerry Jones's box, and you're going to be on the field for this, Ring of Honor thing. Like, you got to be kidding me. And the next day, obviously, to have Dwayne come out on our show and The Rock, and he's talking to me about a lot how Jimmy, when Dwayne was 15 and getting a lot of trouble, and he started watching college football and said, "Man, University of Miami, that's where I want to go," and it kind of helped save him, get him on the straight and narrow, and for him to be able to tell Jimmy that. It was such Jimmy's given us some great surreal moments the last couple of years, but our crew we're different. Like, we hang out constantly. We vacation together. We spend every holiday together. We're, godfathers of each other's kids. This will never happen again in TV, I don't think. And, it's because of how close we are. That was such an unbelievable weekend, man. I think we're all still kind of digesting it. We're all in this text change. That's how great it was.
Let me explore this for a second with you, Jay, because I have known Jimmy for a long time, and football has made him wildly, wildly happy. But getting away from how awful he had to be as a human being to coach successfully has given him great peace. It destroyed his relationship with Jerry Jones, and I did not believe they would ever get over the pettiness of it. Jimmy has said in the past, "I will not be in that Ring of Honor while I'm alive." Jerry will never allow it. To see them late in life show gratitude toward each other after the silliness of what broke them apart, you were close to something that was really moving. Jimmy does not... To see Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith not realize they're jostling an 80-year-old man who you need to be a little more careful with, because they're just...
He's a young 80, though.
Yeah,
he's
a young 80, yeah.
He's a young 80, but you saw my father has been jostled by people who are stronger than him. They forgot he's 80 because he's always been coach. Like, you were around a really special thing that night.
No, and a few weeks earlier, myself, Jimmy, and Bill Richards, our producer, when our executive producer, went to Cowboys Chargers here in LA and on Monday night. And that's when Jimmy and Jerry kind of met. We all kind of were hanging on the sidelines. They met up. Those two had their own little private talk, and that's where the fences were mended. And for me and I've just kept my mouth shut the whole time. It's not my business to talk about. It's Jimmy's business. But I was able to see that firsthand as well. It's like, my career is amazing where, and I always tell this to like Howie Long. I'll say, "Hey, I know we're supposed to act like we've been there before, but that I haven't. Like, this shit is cool."
Well, it's also cool, though, Jay, that you would experience the joys of gratitude in that moment, that while you're experiencing something that feels that good, you're also appreciative of it in a way that makes you not skip right past how amazing it is. Thank you for being
I always try to do that. I always try and make sure that I understand it and kind of live in that gratitude, because it's easy to act like, a lot of people, I think, act like, "Oh, yeah, we're going to act like we're, this is just another day." It's not just another day. You're getting paid to cover the NFL, like your dream job as a kid, and get these relationships with the greatest leaders of men in the history of sports. It's incredible.
And it's not just that, Jay. They're your friends. What you're saying is rare, is you guys are family. Yes, they know your secrets. They know all your bad stuff, and you love each other despite it. It's very cool to see. It's been very cool to see you guys age on television together, because it's clear every time we're watching it that everyone there loves each other. Thank you, Jay. Good to see you again.
Hey, they've aged on TV. I haven't.
No, you have not. It's part of it's part of that serum, that $92 serum that you use, and the fact fact
It
that you don't
wasn't
let us.
cologne, though.
you
It
don't-
was not cologne.
And you don't show us the gray hair either. There'd be gray hair if you weren't bald. You're cheating.
Love you guys.
I'm not certain how you guys felt about the start times for the national semifinal college football games, but I hated them. I mean, seriously, I'm tired. My daughters, they don't listen to me anymore. I've lost them, okay? They're rolling their eyes. And I don't need, on January 1st, after sitting around for 10 days, gummies, debauchery,
Monday that
tired,
feels like a Sunday.
Monday that feels like a Sunday. Do not give me a 9 o'clock kickoff time for Washington and who'd they play? I'm tired.
Texas.
Yeah, I didn't even see the game. It was too late. I don't want that. Give me a 2 o'clock and a 5 o'clock start. Give me a 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock start. Give me a 3 and a 6 o'clock start. I realize the Rose Bowl has to start at the same time every year. It's the granddaddy of them all. But do me a favor. Do not give me a 9 p.m. kickoff on January 1st of all days when I'm exhausted.
Billy, why are you shaking your head at him?
Just none of this surprises me.
Why?
Just none of it surprises me.
I mean, him
It's
not
just-
knowing that Texas played in it was
Well, him not knowing that Texas
Yeah.
played in it, and also he wanted to do a God Bless Football episode about the games yesterday and didn't know what teams played in them after the games already happened.
I said nothing about a God Bless Football episode yesterday. I did one last week on Monday. I did one last week on Friday. I did nothing this week. Hopefully, you and I will do one today. We'll see. But
So you didn't watch the second game at all?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I was tired.
Why would anyone want to listen to one we did today if you just admitted you don't even know what teams played yesterday?
it was
What-
a great game. Came down to the last play. Texas had a chance to win at the very end. They didn't get it done. They should have gotten it done. I feel like Texas is probably the best team in the country, but they didn't get it done.
Sark, horrible play calls at the end of that
Sark
game.
and McConaughey thinks he's the coach. He's out there on the sidelines. He's yelling at players.
15 seconds left in the game. Why are you doing a little screen pass for -1 yards, wasting 5 seconds?
Zagacki, do me a favor, McConaughey. Yell at players at 3 in the afternoon. I don't need it at 9:30, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I need my games to be on earlier.
You want me to believe that that's an important game? Don't have them standing around waiting for the previous game to end before they kick it off.
Thank you.
Embarrassing.
Yep.
Billy, you
Hey.
were.
You agree, Dan?
Nothing tells you you're second fiddle more than sitting around in a stadium of 80,000 people waiting for another game to finish.
We'll start when that game's over.
No, we'll start now. Thank you very much,
How about-
CFP committee.
How about you start at 2 p.m.?
How about you start on time? Exactly right.
But having the sunset as a fourth quarter.
The best.
comes
That's
around,
football.
Oh, yeah.
You can't really have that if you're starting the game.
It's so
at a different
beautiful
time.
there.
Start a game at
Mountains in the
1, and then the
background.
second game can be at 5.
Right.
Problem solved.
Little
Boom.
1, little 5.
But then
done.
I
Put
missed
me
my
on the
sunset.
committee.
I missed my sunset in
No, you can still
Pasadena.
get your. No, you'll still get
5
it. That's the
o'clock,
second
Rose Bowl.
game. Exactly
Yeah, but
right.
not entering the fourth quarter.
Yes, it starts at the exact
great.
same time. You just have the other game before it. Put the other game at 2.
But then what about the West Coast?
Who cares about the West Coast? They don't care about sports on the West Coast. Please. Get the
That
hell
was
outta here.
football yesterday. That stadium, those two teams, the uniforms, the sun coming down, defensive battle, that was football.
It was a great Rose Bowl game, and it seemed like it was a great Sugar Bowl game. I could not fight my eyes come the third quarter.
Well, this is.
I fell
You know what?
asleep.
Okay.
I'm
look,
sorry
all right,
about that.
Now, let's,
you agree.
let's-
It was a
now-
great game, great wide receivers all over the field. The Washington has arguably one of the greatest wide receiver sets of the last 20 years, are right up there with the LSU team.
Everyone discovered Washington was good last night.
No, I mean I've known that
That's
they've
not
been good.
true, Stugotz. Come on.
A lot of
did-
people
wait
did.
a
I did. I
minute.
turned
A
on
lot of people
Dan.
did.
I turned on ESPN
Just
radio
hold
this
on,
morning on the
hold
way
on.
in.
All
He's right.
Michael Penix.
All right.
Their conference doesn't even
All right,
care about them.
all
They
right.
folded.
Wait a minute. Just wait a minute. Okay. There's a certain amount of ignorance I cannot abide. Okay. Like, I understand he wants the laziest possible. Yes, let's do multiple podcasts when I haven't watched anything. And I'm just going to sort of fake my way through this. But people who've been watching Washington football all year have known how good that football team is.
No one's watched them. I mean,
Texas won at Alabama by 2 touchdowns, and we all started questioning Alabama. But if you want serious analysis about what you saw yesterday, because you're giving the laziest possible analysis.
I just
you're
want an earlier start.
No, but
I
before that, Stugotz, before that, you were talking about Saban, awfully conservative on that drive. Most conservative Saban I've seen. When you get here 10 minutes ago, and you haven't been paying attention, to Alabama was outmanned up front. Like, this Alabama team you love to do this Popovich thing of maybe his best coaching job yet. Nick Saban's team wasn't that good this year. Like, he was getting mauled by Michigan's offensive linemen. They made all sorts of shifts in the second half to disguise that that Milrow's not good enough.
I agree with you. It's why it's his best coaching job ever. I mean,
Stugotz,
checkmate.
but what Stugotz actually just said to me that you're not allowed to not be surprised by, Billy, is at 9 p.m. on January 1st of the year of our Lord, 2024, Stugotz actually muttered, "Football, leave me alone."
I mean, enough.
Hey, enough with the 9 p.m. game. The granddaddy, that's it. Look, it's sunset on my life. It's sunset on my happy hour.
What a game.
I can't do 9 o'clock football, even if you give me 37-31. I'm a tired old man mailing it in on edibles. I've been watching football for 10 days. Enough.
I was right there next to him. At least I made it to
Thank
the
you.
third quarter. I just couldn't fight it off.
It ended at 1 in the morning. You
Right.
guys keep saying, what about the West? What about the East Coast?
Exactly.
It's 1 a.m.
Night Owl Billy over here.
You stayed up for it?
Well, I mean, 37-31 is a shootout. That extends the time that you're watching the game, more timeouts, all that. Give me a defensive struggle. I mean, if you're going to start a game at 9 o'clock,
lost me now.
first team to 7 wins. Sir Dan, I can't stay up this late anymore.
They
I
gave
can't
you a
do it.
defensive struggle in the first game, and it still didn't matter. They're getting all their commercials in.
That was a quick game.
You
Overtime ruined it, though. I
You
mean,
want a 9 o'clock start to not be a shootout? You want it to be a defensive game?
just a quick one, yeah. Someone win at 7-0. Let's go to bed.
A lot of run
How about
plays.
that?
Get that clock moving.
Yes.
My eyes
I'm
were
with
so
you on
heavy
that,
my eyes were so heavy that I didn't notice that there were boobs on my television. Yeah, no one did. Did you? No, well, certainly the person manning the control board over at ESPN didn't notice it either. Did you see that? They've had to apologize. They did one of those B-roll shots of Bourbon Street, a street where famously people toss beads.
It was a very subtle flashing.
It was quick. It was quick.
It wasn't like, woo!
And unfortunately for them, the sponsor card almost blocked it entirely. But now there's a screen cap of a sponsor next to just someone getting beads.
Billy, you are not allowed, as the producer of God Bless Football, which I'm assuming has won all those podcast awards.
Oh, no, you can still vote for us.
Yeah, please do.
Where do you vote?
There's a link on Twitter.
Okay, excellent
of
work.
dashes.
That's always-
Circa Las Vegas.
SportsPodcastAward.com.
You are not allowed to not be surprised by Stugotz muttering at 9 p.m. January 1st, "Football, leave me alone."
Monday, that feels like a Sunday.
Yeah, but you don't know this creature so well that that's not surprising to you.
I mean-
when he's asking you to do multiple God Bless Footballs, he's ruining your time off by Billy. No one asked for those God Bless Footballs.
Well,
He
Stugotz did.
he didn't have. He had
Well, the
10 days
audience
off.
did,
His
yeah.
daughters are rolling their eyes at him. He's
Right.
like, I got to get my football opinions off, even if I haven't seen the games, and even if at 9 p.m. on January 1st, I'm like, football, leave me alone. I have to give my opinion somewhere.
You would agree, though. It was enough football.
And no, it was a lot over the break. It was a lot of football.
I would
Dan.
agree. I would.
Like Iowa, Tennessee, like who needed
How-
that? yesterday?
No
Listen,
one needed.
No
it.
one needed that.
Just
What
give
a
me a
win.
night.
Let
Let me tell you, the VRBO Fiesta Bowl, where they didn't care what time they were starting in Mountain West time. It was, I think it started at like 9:30 a.m. local time. Don't give me liberty. And you're going to do this. Don't give me liberty. Give me death. Like, don't do that. You're going to do this in an expanded playoff. You don't need to include the small crap schools in the expanded playoff.
Oh, come on.
We're expanding the playoff. If they're good enough, they can be one of the top 12 teams.
Dollars to Donuts, the national championship is not starting at 7:30. That's the listed time. Not a chance in hell that game starts at 7:30.
Dollars to donuts.
Put it on the poll. Is anyone under 80 years old saying the phrase "dollars to donuts" at Le Batard Show?
That thing has 9 p.m. written all over it.
All over it. That's a 9:02 kickoff if I've ever seen one. It says 7:30, but you know that's just so you tune into ESPN at 7:30. Then you start doing the multiple stealth bomber flyovers and all that stuff. Game's probably even in a dome. It is. What are they going to fly over for?
Yeah, it's in Houston.
But here's the thing, though.
But it is a retractable.
I've been loving the Washington story all year and the Penix story all year, and I love watching them play offense because they throw the ball way down the field. But I was not with Stugotz on the idea of football, leave me alone, because I could have spent 3 hours one of those days talking about how James Franklin should have pressed assault charges for what Lane Kiffin did to him in that bowl game. James Franklin was exposed for all to see in Penn State football. Oh, my God. Lane Kiffin is much more aggressive offensively and has a great quarterback named Jackson Dart with the perfect name. I could have talked about at 2 a.m. If you had turned on the YouTube, I would have wandered over and asked James Franklin to press charges for assault on Lane Kiffin.